Hello all, this is Manjusha Bhosle from KK Polytechnic Nashik. Today we will see the concept of FCFS scheduling algorithm, that is first come first serve scheduling algorithm, and we will see that how the average waiting time and turnaround time will be calculated by taking one example. So let us start with FCFS scheduling algorithm. Before going to example, we will just see the overview of FCFS scheduling algorithm. The strategy of FCFS scheduling algorithm is the process that requests the CPU first is allocated to the CPU first. That is, when the number of processes are waiting in the ready queue, and the first process which is first come to the ready queue will be allocated to the CPU first, and the last process will get the CPU at last. So using this strategy, we can easily implement the FCFS scheduling algorithm using FIFO queue structure, that is first in first out. So if we have implemented this FIFO queue structure, then the process which is at the first location, that will be the head location, the PCB of the process will be pointed by the head, and whenever new process come to the ready queue, the PCB of that next process will be pointing to the tail. Likewise, the process at the head will be given to the CPU first, and then the next process will be given to the next, and likewise all processes will be executed as a FCFS service. So sometime for this algorithm the average waiting time is quite long, and the utilization of resources like CPU and IO devices are low. That we will see in the example. It is non-preemptive scheduling algorithm because whenever any process goes to the CPU, until and unless process voluntarily leaves the CPU, CPU cannot leave the process. The completion of process must be there. When process leaves the CPU and goes to the IO or termination, then only CPU can release the process. That is, no interrupt can leave the process from the CPU. That is called as a non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. That means there is no preemption of the process in between execution. So this FCFS scheduling algorithm is purely non-preemptive, but there is one drawback. That is when the more burst time process comes first to the ready queue, and when the low burst time process comes to the ready queue next, then that next process has to wait for a longer time in the ready queue because of this strategy, and this is called as a convoy effect. So if a process is purely CPU bound process, then it is okay that it will go to the CPU and will execute for a longer time. But if the next process is purely IO bound process, then instead of going to the IO, it has to wait into the ready queue, and then whenever that more burst time process will get complete, then only it will get the chance to execute in the CPU, and then it will go to the IO. So at that time the IO become idle. So this is the low utilization of the resources. Sometimes this happens vice versa. So let us start with the example, and we will see that how this effect happens and what are the advantages and disadvantages of the FCFS scheduling algorithm. So here I have taken one example that you can see. The set of processes are there, 5 processes are there, P1 to P5, and their burst times are given, which are in the millisecond. And now we have to find out waiting time of each process, and then average waiting time as well as turnaround time, that is total turnaround time and average turnaround time. So let us start with the example. First we will draw the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is one of the chart which shows the progress of process execution, and from where we can find out that how much time the process is waiting in the ready queue and how much time it takes for execution to the CPU. So first I will draw the Gantt chart. So let us start with this. Now as you can see, you have to start with first process. So as here we have to consider one thing, that is arrival time. We will consider here that arrival time of each process is 0th time unit, that means at that instance all the processes has already came into the ready queue. So P1 will start from 0th time unit and the burst time of P1 is 10 millisecond. So here is P1, and as its burst time is 10 millisecond, it will execute up to 10 millisecond. So here we have to calculate from 0 to 1 millisecond, then 1 to 2 millisecond, and likewise there is a execution of P1 for 10 millisecond. The next process is P2, and the burst time of P2 is 29 millisecond. So from 10 to 29, that is 29 plus 10, that will be 39. Up to 39 P2 will be executing. Then next is P3, and P3 is so small, so here you can observe that the P2 has burst time 29 millisecond, but it is second process and P3 is third process. So P3 need to wait for 29 millisecond because it is the next process. So 39 plus 3, that is 42 millisecond. And then next process is P4, which has 7 milliseconds of burst time. So 42 plus 7, that is 49 millisecond. And the last one is P5, that is 49 plus 12, that is 61 millisecond. So here turnaround time is equal to 61 millisecond. That is total time of execution of all the processes. Now next we will calculate the waiting time of each process. So now waiting time of, first we will calculate for P1, then P2, then P3, then P4, and then P5. And once we get the waiting time of each process, then we will calculate average waiting time. So for P1, the waiting time is 0 millisecond because at it was in the ready queue. Immediately it is assigned to the CPU and it was not waiting in the ready queue. So the waiting time of P1 is 0 millisecond. For P2 it is arrived at 0 time unit, but for 10 millisecond it is being waited. So 10 millisecond is the waiting time of P2. Now here you can observe that this time at which the process start is nothing but the waiting time of that process. So easily you can calculate from the Gantt chart that for P3 it is 39 millisecond, for P4 it is 42 millisecond, and for P5 it is 49 millisecond. Now here you can observe that individual waiting time is depend on the previous process execution. So waiting time is nothing but the summation of period spent in the ready queue. It will not consider the execution time of that process. Waiting time is just the waiting time of the ready queue. To calculate the average waiting time, we will just make the summation of this. So average waiting time is equal to summation of this divided by number of processes. So the summation of this is 140 millisecond divided by number of processes are 5. So the average waiting time is 28 millisecond. Now here you can observe that we have calculated two things. First is average waiting time. Before that we need to calculate waiting time. So first you need to calculate waiting time of individual process and then you can go for average waiting time. Now we will calculate average turnaround time. So for that we need to calculate individual turnaround time. So turnaround time of P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5 we have to calculate first and then we will go for average turnaround time. So for P1 the average turnaround time is 10 millisecond because It is not waiting in the ready queue. It is immediately assigned to the CPU and it is executed for 10 milliseconds. So turnaround time of P1 is 10 milliseconds. For P2 it is 10 plus execution time of P2, that is 29, which is equal to 39 milliseconds. For P3 is equal to 39, which is a waiting time of P3 plus execution time of P3, that is 42 milliseconds. For P4 it is 42 plus 7, that is 49 milliseconds, and for P5 it is 49 plus 12, that is 61 milliseconds. And now we have got all the turnaround times, so we will just make the addition and then divide it by number of processes. So average turnaround time is equal to sum of these all turnaround times, which is equal to 201 divided by 5, which is equal to 40.2 millisecond. So this is how we have calculated turnaround time, then waiting time of each process, average waiting time, turnaround time of each process, and average turnaround time from the Gantt chart. And here the algorithm applied is FCFS scheduling algorithm, that is first come first serve. I hope you all have understood this. Thank you all.